I first began watching the television show How I Met Your Mother at about age 13 when a friend of mine recommended it to me. I found myself enjoying it a lot more than I expected, and at the time, I was still in the mindset that anything that wasn't a cartoon was inherently more boring than a show which was animated. But something about this sitcom grabbed me, and it would not let go for 9 seasons. 9 seasons which took me only a few months to get through, and which remained entertaining the entire way through. And upon the last episode, I, as many other people did, felt a hole in my heart which had been left by this show. One which I was desperate to fill as soon as possible, so to avoid the inevitable feeling of longing for days already past. I found solace in yet another sitcom by the name of Friends, and as I watched, I tried to feel the same way towards this newly discovered series that I had towards my previous endeavor. I thought surely it would be easy considering it seemed like a carbon copy of what I had just finished, but something was different. I chalked it up to the fact that Friends was just an older show than How I Met Your Mother and that it was made in a different culture, but as I continued watching and rewatching both of these shows, I realized that there was something more going on here. Something or some things which I hadn't picked up on earlier simply because I wasn't as observant. An explainable reason for why How I Met Your Mother captivated me while Friends did not. All the while, I continued to learn more and more about these two shows from my parents and my own research, and I was thoroughly surprised that I seemed to be a minority in my opinions of these two shows. I kept rewatching and contemplating the differences between each of these shows over the course of multiple years, and despite the consensus pointing in the other direction, I kept drawing the same conclusion, that How I Met Your Mother was far superior to its predecessor, Friends. Why couldn't anyone see the things I was seeing? Why did it seem like I was the only one who cared about the relationship between these shows? These questions and many more like them continued brewing in my brain up to the point that I was about to explode on the next person who said that they preferred Friends over How I Met Your Mother. Thankfully, that did not happen. I was granted a route to release my built-up thoughts in the form of entering a short video contest. Finally, I thought to myself, I can get all this stuff out of my head and move on with my life. But 'twas not to be. For the video contest tragically had a 5-minute time limit enforced on all of its submissions. Still, I tried to cram as many of my points into this video as I could, and I came as close as possible to going over the time limit, but even still, I had much more to say. I quickly realized that I was going to have to make yet another video about my thoughts on these two shows. However, at the time, I was in the midst of an entirely separate gigantic analysis project which I had promised to finish months ago. So I put the lid back on the pot and hoped it wouldn't boil over while I finished my other project, and this is where we finally arrive at the creation of this video. With my long-form analysis of Voltron Legendary Defender done, I could finally devote my energy towards putting to words what had only been a thought in my head for years. Why How I Met Your Mother is better than Friends. Answering this question thoroughly will take more than a quick description of each show and me pointing out that How I Met Your Mother does certain things better than Friends, though. A lot more. I already tried my hand at compiling all my thoughts into one cohesive video experience with my Voltron analysis, and that project took about 10 months to finish, so for the sake of not disappearing for another year, I'm going to be breaking my analysis of these shows down into several individual videos. Not only will this allow me to release more regular content on this channel, but it will also speed up the overall production of this project because I won't be needing to spend extra time making sure each section in my analysis flows into one another. Plus, I'll just be able to feel like I'm making more meaningful progress because I'll actually be posting the most recent section to YouTube instead of clicking save as. But now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's actually get into explaining why How I Met Your Mother is better than Friends, starting with the characters. The characters are the most heavily compared aspects of these two shows, and for good reason. The cast of How I Met Your Mother was very clearly based on the cast of Friends. Ted is Ross, Robin is Rachel, Marshall is Chandler, Lily is Monica, and Barney is Joey. The only character who doesn't have a version 2.0 is Phoebe, and I'm actually pretty glad that this is the case, but I'll get into that later. The fact that How I Met Your Mother's characters are so blatantly based on Friends has caused many people to state that How I Met Your Mother copied Friends, ripped it off, or plagiarized it. And while I won't deny the fact that the cast of How I Met Your Mother uses similar character archetypes, I simply do not think that it's reasonable to discredit the show for this. First of all, the types of characters we can observe in these two shows are by no means original. You can't swing a stick without hitting a sitcom that uses the will they won't they plot thread between the main guy and girl throughout the vast majority of its runtime. There's also the characters of the advice giver, the new one, and of course the idiot, but what seems to be the real issue many people have with How I Met Your Mother in this regard is the relationships between the characters. In Friends, Ross, Chandler, and Monica have all known each other for a long time, and Ross and Chandler were even college roommates. Joey, a skilled ladies' man, comes along not too long before the beginning of the show, and the show starts with the introduction of Rachel, the career-determined, self-centered love interest of Ross. Likewise, in How I Met Your Mother, Ted, Marshall, and Lily have all known each other for a long time, and Ted and Marshall were even college roommates. Barney, a skilled ladies' man, comes along not too long before the beginning of the show, and the show starts with the introduction of Robin, the career-determined, self-centered love interest of Ted. As you can see, there are a few similarities. You might have noticed, however, that all of the descriptions I just gave of these characters are about how they start off in each show. This is because although How I Met Your Mother begins with the same premise as Friends, it quickly takes the story in a very different direction by making crucial changes to the plot. Arguably the most significant of these is in the will they won't they arc with Ted and Robin. At the end of the first episode of How I Met Your Mother, it is revealed that Robin is not the mother, and this is easily one of the most important differences between these two shows because it ends the will they won't they plot line. In Friends, the love interest between Ross and Rachel is brought up in episode 1, but it isn't resolved until the very last episode of the show. Their relationship is a constant plot thread throughout all 10 seasons, and if you're someone who's familiar with this kind of arc from the countless other shows which have done it before, you know that they end up together because that is how it always goes. Yet, Friends dances around the question, never giving you a definitive yes or no, and never telling you what you are already aware of. Hey, look, they're gonna get together. Oh wait, Rachel got a boyfriend. Ooh, looky, they started dating. Uh-oh, Rachel's mad because Ross slept with another woman while they were on a break. Let's not converse about who is in the wrong here, let's just make a recurring joke. But she still loves him, psych, they hate each other again. Actually, Rachel still loves Ross, but there's a bit of British in the way. What's the worst way we can deal with this conflict? Rachel's pregnant with Ross's child, but don't worry, they're totally platonic, and to prove it, we're gonna pair Rachel up with Joey, but uh-oh, looks like Joey read the script and now he can't get it up. And all along, they knew they were just meant to be together. It's like the show is dangling a piece of candy just out of your reach and going, maybe I'll give it to you or maybe I won't. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. How I Met Your Mother makes it crystal clear that although Ted is romantically interested in Robin, the two of them are not going to end up together, and rightfully so. The two of them have completely opposing goals in life. Robin doesn't want any kids and wants to go wherever her job takes her, even if it's another continent, and Ted wants to settle down and start a family. These two lifestyles cannot coexist, and the show knows this. Friends has a similar dynamic in Ross and Rachel. Hell, it's why they initially went on a break. Ross wanted Rachel around more, but she was too caught up in her career. The problem is that it's still hinted that they have feelings for each other and they still end up getting together, despite the numerous instances showcasing why they make a terrible couple. As much as the media loves to push the love is stronger than any force in the universe message, it simply isn't true. You can't love someone into deciding to start a family with you. You can't love someone into putting their entire career in jeopardy. You can't love someone into loving you back. Friends teaches its audience that love is the end-all be-all, and that's a bad lesson to push. How I Met Your Mother, on the other hand, handles the exact same situation with leagues more maturity and realism. For anyone who didn't read the text at the beginning of this video and is probably screaming at their monitor by this point, now would be a good time to mention that when I say anything about How I Met Your Mother, it should be assumed that I'm talking about the show with its alternative ending wherein Robin and Ted do not end up together. In the original ending, they do, but I'll get into that whole debacle much later. Anyway, Ted and Robin are handled much better as a relationship than Ross and Rachel, but what about as individual characters? Well, in the case of Ross and Ted, I can safely say that this is yet another instance of How I Met Your Mother far outdoing its predecessor. Ross is framed as someone who loves too much for his own good. He constantly puts the needs of Rachel above his own, and after getting a divorce just before the start of the show, he's left with trust issues that he'll have to work towards fixing. This is how Ross is framed. However, it's not an accurate description of his real character, and unfortunately, as the seasons passed, Ross's true colors began to show through. Ross may have everyone else fooled, thinking that he loves Rachel, including himself, but if you actually pay attention to his actions throughout the show, it becomes apparent that his true motivations are to possess Rachel and control every aspect of her life.
These new people and got this whole other life going on. I just hate that I'm not a part of it.
Maybe it's okay that you're not a part of it. I mean, it's like, I like that you're not involved in that part of my life. My work, it's for me, and it's scary, but I love it because it's mine. But I mean, is that okay?
Sure.
This can be most clearly observed in action throughout Season 3, wherein Ross becomes jealous of Rachel's co-worker, Mark. He becomes extremely paranoid and untrusting of Rachel, which is what leads to their breakup. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, but doesn't Ross get punished for his misbehavior? And the answer is yes. However, if you know a thing or two about psychology, you know that punishment is not the best way to change behavior for the better. This is because it tends to create negative emotional side effects such as animosity towards the punisher, and because it does not teach the punishee what to replace the undesired behavior with. And we can see this exactly happening to Ross. He never figures out a way to attempt dealing with his trust issues other than to push them down and eventually explode, and he becomes more spiteful towards Rachel following their breakup. While it is good that Ross got punished for his actions, the whole situation is unsettling because he never learned his lesson. Now let's take a look at how I Met Your Mother handles a very similar situation. Ted comes to the realization that Robin has feelings for him while he is still in a relationship with Victoria, so he tells Robin that Victoria broke up with him, and then he cheats on her with Robin. In response to finding out Ted lied, Robin, get this, cuts contact with Ted. Now, I don't particularly like Robin. I think she's the weakest cast member in How I Met Your Mother overall for various reasons, which I'll get into later, but this moment is a perfect showcase of why I much prefer How I Met Your Mother over Friends. How I Met Your Mother is mature. Friends is childish. When presented with a narrative situation wherein there is some level of moral ambiguity, Friends chooses to make a running gag out of it, while How I Met Your Mother chooses to teach the audience a valuable lesson. How much blame can be put on Ted for his actions? He never meant to hurt anyone, and he intended to call Victoria and break up with her before sleeping with Robin. The only reason that didn't happen was because he accidentally picked up the wrong phone, and Victoria happened to call while he was in the bathroom. And what makes this entire situation work as well as it does is the fact that Ted, unlike Ross, truly loves Robin and wants to be with her without controlling her. He even briefly offers to change his entire life plans just to be with her before he realizes that it would be unrealistic and would only cause friction in their relationship. Ted is loving and supportive towards Robin to the point of self-destruction. Ted constantly sacrifices for Robin and even his other friends. At one point in the series, Ted learns that Barney is going to propose to Robin's coworker Patrice at a time in the story where Robin has fallen in love with Barney, and he is faced with the choice of whether or not to tell Robin so she can go stop it and possibly get together with Barney, or not tell her, let Barney get engaged, and have a chance with Robin for himself. Take a wild guess at what he decides to do. Yeah, he tells Robin, even after being told by Marshall to do what's best for his own self-interest. Even after that, and even after Robin profusely denies that she wants to take Barney from Patrice, Ted goes out of his way to take the woman he is in love with to the building where his friend is going to propose to another woman, and tells the woman he loves to go get with his friend because he wants her to be happy above anything else. That is what true love is, and does that sound like something Ross would do? I think not. On the female side of the romantic plot in each of these shows is Rachel and Robin. This is one area where I can't quite say which character I prefer between these shows. I really like that Rachel's love versus career struggle is something that develops over time as opposed to how relatively unchanging Robin is in How I Met Your Mother. I think that it makes Rachel a slightly more relatable character than Robin. I mean, how many audience members of each of these shows do you think were news reporters, and how many do you think were waitresses? I also find it kind of annoying how self-centered Robin can be. She does certainly get better as the show goes on, but I would have liked to see at least one episode where Robin is directly confronted with how she seems to think that she deserves special treatment due to her being attractive and on TV. Rachel is similar in this regard, but I find her growth more endearing because her problem, rather than being egocentric, is that she simply doesn't know how to live the life of someone who isn't relying on their rich parents, and she is aware of this flaw in herself from the start and wants to change. Despite this, I think that Rachel reaches much lower lows than Robin, specifically in how childish and spiteful she acts towards Ross after their breakup. I mean, in her letter to Ross, she wanted him to take full responsibility for the breakup. Now, I don't think that Ross shares no blame in his and Rachel's breakup. In fact, I'd say that he shares most of it, but you cannot convince me that Ross had no right to be upset upon hearing Mark's voice in Rachel's apartment just hours after the two of them had took a break. Rachel should have understood what that situation looked like from Ross's perspective, but she was very quick to absolve herself of all the blame and actively spited Ross afterwards over the most petty things imaginable. Like, seriously, she's mad at him for falling asleep while reading her 18-page long letter at 5 in the morning. What did she expect to happen? There's less to unpack with Robin and Rachel's characters than each of their love interests, especially considering I don't feel like they're as polarized as Ross and Ted. There is one aspect of these couples which I have neglected to fully dive into yet, and that is their actual endings. There is a lot to be said about the endgame of both of these couples, but getting into all that would be part of a bigger conversation and is definitely going to need to be a section of its own in this analysis, so this is where we leave off for now. Continued in part 2. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, remember to destroy the like button just like I am going to destroy Friends in the upcoming episodes in this analysis, and if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified of when the next video in this series comes out. If you just like hearing me talk, you can check out my numerous other videos on this channel and the podcast channel I do with my friends called the Zoomercast. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.